Business is not a subject like any other subject. Competitor and competition is a very, very crucial factor and an important term. Why? Because whenever you want to introduce a product at the beginning, always there is going to be appreciation because you are a new product to the market. Product is what the actual face of the company, which I would like to say. Good morning and welcome to the session 3 in Unit 1 in Business Research Methods, where we are going to speak about a very, very important process called as the applications of business research. So let us move further to understand where does the application comes into picture. Now, the business research is a field of practical study in which company obtains data and analyzes the same to manage the company better. Now, if you start understanding this process, business is not a subject like any other subject where you could probably just make a theoretical assumption or a research. But business is a field where you need to understand the practicality of each and every decision. Suppose you have a business which has got some 4 or 5 verticals, namely HR, finance, marketing, sales, operation, and IT. Now, each of this vertical have got their own impact towards the nature of business. So one has to study carefully in terms of understanding which decision will be better and at what time altogether. Why? Because many times we would understand or we tend to understand that business is something that what we have assumed is right, or what we have done is right. But then the analysis will give completely a different result altogether. So that is why it is very, very important here that in business, we involve ourselves in practical study. We want to understand the psychological moment. We want to understand each and every factor so well that we are able to go inside and make a better decision for ourselves. The second thing is that executives and managers who use business research method can understand better than their company and the position holds it in terms of the market, how to improve that position. So at one point of time, you start understanding that the positions that are involved, that they are coming into picture are entirely different. Why? Because now, for example, whenever an executive or manager wants to understand the business, he has to first map the business according to the market. He needs to understand where his organization is standing with respect to other companies in the market. When you are doing a comparative study, when you are doing an analysis, when you are trying to figure out the entire process here, then automatically you need to do the mapping in such a way that the wavelength is kept intact. It's kept in position. So that is why we always believe that for the executives and managers, it is the right time, it is the right methodology that they need to spend more on business research in order to arrive at effective decisions. The next thing is that when we start thinking about the product analysis, we will first start with the product. Why? Because product is what the actual face of the company, which I would like to say. For all manufacturing company, product is the ultimate game changer, because when people look into your product, they believe in your product. They understand that this is what we have been looking into. So the product speaks for the company. So how do you do a product analysis using this business research method? The first thing is that companies must find a product that needs to meet the consumer demand or exceed the consumer expectation. Now let us start with a very simple example like that of a Lay's chip or a Cadbury's chocolate, or when we talk about an ITC's bingo or Mad Angles altogether. Though these are all snack foods altogether, people might think that what is so much needed, or what is that big research that is needed in order to go inside this particular 5 minutes or a 10-minute snack. But then let's understand that when the consumer is going to spend an X amount of rupees on your product, he expects that the product should be of the best quality as far as possible, because his expectations are not limited, they are unlimited in nature. He would always feel that there needs to be something better than this that can make the product even more stronger, even more volatile in the market. So that is why he gets into this understanding. He wants to know how things are happening in terms of the demand factors. So the companies will always try to find out a product which is even more demanding, which is even more having a better brand appreciation in the minds of the consumer. One type of analysis is that to find an existing product which can be improved through design and features. Now, I would like to take the case of Rin, Lifebuoy or Surf Excel. All these products have been into the market for several years. In fact, several hundred, I would like to put in. Why? Because they have been a product which is more than a century, probably, if I come to know, or more than half a century at least in the Indian markets. The reason is that these soaps like Lifebuoy or Dettol and all these kind of products have got so much synced into the minds of the consumer that people do not even want to change the name, or people do not even want to see something better. They've gone so much into the mind, they've synced up so much that they can't think an alternative option. The reason for it is that the products kept on improving themselves year by year, ages by ages, and the fact is that though it is not just about the wrapper change or the color change or the physical form factors, but also about enhancing the quality of the product. So that is why one type of analysis is to keep on rebuilding your existing product to the next level as far as possible, so that this brings in a lot of change to you. The next thing is that the another kind of product analysis where you find emerging markets that has a high supply and demand for your particular product that you are going to invent. Now, many times you might feel that chocolate might not have a demand in India, whereas chocolate might have a demand in Malaysia or in Singapore or in Taiwan. Similarly, you might find that probably the foods that are made out of maize are not having a great amount of demand here, but that kind of food product might have a demand somewhere else. So similarly, what we need to understand is the demand for the product which is available in some other part of the world, because that is going to make your product sell far better, and that's going to make you understand that in the long run analysis your product will have a greater value, a greater appreciation altogether. So that's why in product analysis we believe that the exercise is twofold. One side, you create and you start making your product better and better, that's already existing. The other thing is that you start finding out alternative markets that can suffix and that can go further in terms of making a better launch pad for you. The next thing is your market analysis. Now, the market analysis is the most sensitive or the most competitive factor that I can ever talk about. Why? Because the companies will conduct a market analysis to determine how much profit might be earned from the current demand. That's very, very important for you guys. Why? Because companies will conduct a market analysis. They will determine how much profit can be earned. Now, at many times, what companies will think is that the market might be strong, but my product is not selling, or my product is strong, but the market is not appreciating it. So this is where the companies really need to take a step forward in terms of understanding how much can we earn from the given market conditions, which is already there on a demand basis factor here. So that is why I would say that it is always better that we understand the process and then we start building it accordingly. The second thing is that management will look at a stage where the business cycles of the markets is currently in, whether it is in a stagnating position, increasing position, or in a situation where it is already declining. Why? Because you need to make this analysis. Whenever you want to introduce a product at the beginning, always there is going to be appreciation because you are a new product to the market. So everybody will be interested to try it out, to experiment it out and find out whether we can survive that way. But then what is going to be really fantastic or it's going to be challenging is that you want to see in the long run, will this product sustain the growth? Suppose the product has already reached a declining stage, then that is a time for you to reinvent a new product and get back into the market altogether. Well, if that's not going to happen, if that's not going to be seen altogether, then definitely there is going to be a problem, there is going to be a challenge. So market analysis is going to put you on the top gear to understand what is there, how things are moving and how we can make it even more better. So that is why market analysis is a very important function that I am talking about. The next thing is your financial analysis. Now, there cannot be any better analysis than the financial analysis because that is going to determine the cost of each production item that is involved in terms of your business. Now, it is very easy, interesting for all of us to talk about the concept of marketing or product or operations. But at the end of the day, what people will typically ask from you is what is the money that you have in terms of producing that particular goods or a particular item altogether. So it is up to you to think whether are we in a position, are we in that state that where we can see the production of goods going up, where we can see the cost of the factor coming to a minimum level. So finance is an integral aspect of the business and it is mandatory for every business to do a complete analysis and find out whether we can take the product to the next level. Is it possible to manufacture at that given level altogether? Now, management will also review the best cost application methods, ensuring that all productions are adequately applied to the manufactured sector and then they can be taken forward. So even for the management, it is not just going to be the balance sheet, the profit and loss, but even there, they would try to understand, analyze and come up with certain amount of tools, techniques, research and method so that they are able to see a betterment. They are able to see that how costs can be handled in the long run and how things can be made even more effective coming forward. So that is why I would always say that this is going to be eternally a challenging process for each one of us to understand the growth aspect. So financial analysis, definitely a demanding part of business research, followed by the competitor analysis. Now, this word competitor and competition is a very crucial factor and an important term. Why? Because ultimately, businesses want to know the main course of their survival moving further. Because it's very simple at some point of say that companies are there for the customers and customers are there for the company. This is a very good philosophical statement in business ideology, in business method. But then the real factor that we are going to talk about is not just this, but we are going to talk about the competition. Where is the competition? Because competition makes me survive every day. I have to fight out the competition. I have to fight out my competitor and I have to say that I can edge over you better because I have got a better research, I've got a better product line, I've got a better costing, I've got a better ideology altogether in my mind which I can make myself survive altogether. So that's why I would always say that the competitor analysis is a very important function when it comes to business. Now, the other thing is that knowing which companies have the best product production methods, customer loyalty, which companies have got a strategic advantage of moving further, the competitive advantage of edging over the others. All these analysis can be found out using the business research methodology. So somewhere down the lane, you need to understand that when we are talking about this competitor analysis, it is more about focusing on one particular line, how to see your survival coming up and how you are able to build a stronger line of workout for yourself. So these lines are very important for each one of us to understand and take it forward. Now, the growth analysis. Ultimately, the company will grow only if when we start crucially understanding the profitability of the business operation. So somewhere down the lane, one has to understand the crucial importance of profitability of the business operation. It has to be very, very profitable in nature. It has to go up. It has to come up in the line, and it has to grow in terms of the business factor. So one has to see the direction. One has to forecast the growth and direction of the current industry, understand where we are exactly heading. We might think that we are in the right direction. We might think that business is doing extremely well, but then the stability of the business operation completely depends on the way company has strategically identified. Because if the company does not identify the business, if the company does not look into the business aspects clearly of how we have to move further, where are the roots of growth that are located for us, then we will not be able to think forward. We will not be able to make a growth process altogether. So that's why I always say that growth analysis is very, very important for us. With this, I come to the end of this session. I hope and believe that this session was of a great importance and resource to you. In the upcoming sessions, we shall be talking more about the various stages of the business research. Until then, stay tuned, stay blessed, and stay enlightened forever. Thank you once again for joining me today on this wonderful session.